Oh my God, look at you. Disgusting.
She looked him up and down like something rotting.
Your skin looks like it hasn't been washed in years. Don't worry. I'll clean you up just like I clean those filthy cars.
She grabbed a mop bucket and splashed it over him. Gray liquid hit his chest and ran down his neck. The parking lot fell silent. He stood there, soaked, motionless.
Ma'am, I just came to look at some cars.
Cars? People like you can't afford air for my tires. Get out before I call the police.
He wiped his face, gently, slowly.
Can I have your name?
Report me?
She grinned.
To who? Nobody cares about people like you.
That night her boss called, and all the blood drained from her face. Now, let me rewind, just a little, so you understand exactly how we got to that moment. It was a Saturday morning in late September, the kind of morning where the Carolina sun hits everything golden. The sky over Charlotte stretched wide and blue, not a single cloud in sight. The air smelled like fresh-cut grass and warm asphalt. Hargrove Family Motors sat on a busy commercial strip just off the highway. It was the kind of dealership that wanted you to know it had money. Giant American flags snapping in the breeze. Rows of brand new SUVs and trucks lined up on the lot, each one freshly waxed, gleaming so hard under the sun you had to squint. A big electronic sign near the road flashed, "Best deals in Charlotte. Come see Brenda." That Brenda. Inside the showroom, everything was polished. Marble floors, leather chairs in the waiting area, a flat-screen TV playing the news on mute. The smell of new leather and fresh coffee floated through the air-conditioned space. It looked like the kind of place that welcomed everyone. It didn't. Now let me introduce you to the man with the dirty water on his chest. His name was Oliver Dawson, mid-40s, tall, calm, with the kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. That morning, he was dressed like any regular guy running Saturday errands. A faded university hoodie, clean jeans, simple sneakers. No watch, no jewelry, no designer anything. He pulled into the lot in a mid-range rental SUV, nothing fancy. His personal cars were being serviced, so he grabbed whatever the rental place had available. He parked near the back of the lot, turned off the engine, and checked his phone. A text from his wife, Desiree. "Don't forget, pick up Zoe from dance at 3. He smiled, typed back a thumbs up, and stepped out of the car. Here's what nobody in that parking lot knew. Oliver Dawson was the founder and CEO of Dawson Equity Group, a private equity firm worth billions. His company quietly owned controlling stakes in dozens of businesses across the country. Hotels, restaurant chains, medical clinics, and, as of 6 weeks ago, a network of car dealerships through a holding company called Atlantic Auto Holdings. Hargrove Family Motors was one of them. Oliver had a habit. Whenever his firm acquired a new business, he liked to visit, unannounced. No entourage, no phone call ahead, no suit and tie. Just him, walking in like a regular customer, watching how the staff treated people when they didn't know the boss was watching. Today was one of those visits. He walked across the lot slowly, hands in his hoodie pocket, looking at the inventory. A nice lineup, he thought. Good condition, well-organized lot. So far, so good. Now let me tell you about the woman who ran this place, Brenda Hargrove. Mid-50s, blonde hair always styled like she had somewhere important to be. Red lipstick, white blouse tucked into pressed slacks. She walked through that dealership like she owned every square inch of it, which technically she didn't. Not anymore. Her father had started Hargrove Family Motors 40 years ago. Brenda took over as general manager when he retired. But 2 years ago, the family sold the business to Atlantic Auto Holdings. Brenda stayed on as GM. Same title, same office, same attitude. She just had bosses now. Not that she acted like it. If you were white, well-dressed, and drove a nice car into her lot, Brenda was your best friend. Big smile, firm handshake. Let me get you some coffee, sweetheart. If you weren't, different story. There was one other person you need to know about. Janelle Perry, 26 years old, the only black employee on the sales floor. She'd been at Hargrove Family Motors for about 2 months, and every single day had been a test of her patience. Janelle was straightening brochures near the entrance when she spotted Oliver walking up. She smiled, ready to greet him. It was her job, after all. But before she could take a single step, Brenda appeared out of nowhere. She stepped right in front of Janelle, blocking her path completely. "I'll handle this one," Brenda said. But the way she said it, cold, firm, with her eyes locked on Oliver, didn't sound like customer service. It sounded like a warning. Brenda walked toward Oliver like a woman on a mission. Her heels cracked against the asphalt, sharp, deliberate, each step louder than the last. She didn't smile. She didn't greet him. She just planted herself directly in his path, 3 feet from the front door, and crossed her arms. Oliver stopped. He gave a polite nod. "Good morning." Brenda didn't return it. Her eyes moved over him, slowly. From his sneakers, to his hoodie, to his face. The way you'd look at a stain on your kitchen counter. "Can I help you?" she said. But her tone didn't offer help. It offered a threat. "Yes, ma'am. I'd love to take a look at your SUV lineup. Maybe take a test." "Hold on." She raised one hand, cutting him off mid-sentence. "Before you waste my time and yours, let me ask you something. How exactly did you get here?" Oliver blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said, how did you get here? Walk? Somebody drop you off at the corner?" She looked past him toward the parking lot and squinted. "Because I don't see anything out there that looks like it belongs to someone who can afford my cars." "I drove. I'm parked right over..." "In what? That sad little rental back there?" She let out a short, sharp laugh. "Oh, honey, this isn't a free museum. We sell vehicles here. Expensive ones. For people who can actually pay." Oliver stayed calm. His hands stayed in his hoodie pocket. His voice stayed level. "I understand that. I'm genuinely interested in your inventory. That's all." But Brenda wasn't listening anymore. She was performing. Her voice climbed louder, loud enough for the 2 families browsing near the trucks to hear every word, loud enough for the sales team standing behind the glass showroom doors to stop mid-conversation and stare. "You know what I think?" she said, stepping closer. Close enough that Oliver could smell her perfume, something sharp and floral, mixed with the heat rising off the blacktop. "I think you wandered in here because you've got nowhere else to go. I think you want to sit in a nice car, snap a little selfie for your friends, and pretend for 5 minutes that you actually belong somewhere like this." She tilted her head and let the words land. "But you don't, and everybody here knows it." Oliver said nothing. His jaw tightened, but his eyes stayed steady. "People like you come in here every single week," she continued, waving her hand toward the showroom. "Touching the paint with your greasy hands, smudging the windows, sitting in leather seats you will never, ever pay for. And then I have to waste my staff's time cleaning up after you. Every single time." She exhaled like she was exhausted just looking at him. "Do you have any idea how tiring that is?" A white couple standing near a silver truck exchanged an uncomfortable glance. The woman grabbed her husband's arm and squeezed. They both looked at the ground. Neither said a word. A little girl in the back seat of a parked car pressed her face against the window, watching. Her eyes were wide. Inside the showroom, Janelle watched through the glass. Her stomach turned. She knew exactly what was happening. She'd seen smaller versions of this before. Brenda's voice, Brenda's posture, that very specific tone she reserved only for people who looked like Janelle, like Oliver, like anyone whose skin wasn't the right shade for Brenda's parking lot. Janelle pushed open the glass door and stepped outside. The heat hit her face immediately. "Ma'am, I can assist this gentleman if you'd like me to." "Janelle?" Brenda didn't even turn around. Her voice was flat and cold. "Go back inside. Restock the water cooler. Sweep the break room. I don't care. Just go. I'm handling this." Janelle froze. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked at Oliver, his calm face, his quiet eyes, and something deep in her chest cracked. Slowly, she turned around and walked back inside. Her fists were clenched so tight, her knuckles ached. Brenda watched her go, then turned back to Oliver. A smile crept across her face. Not a kind smile, the kind of smile that says, "I can do whatever I want, and nobody here will stop me." Now, where were we? She glanced down at the ground near the entrance. A mop bucket sat beside the door, left behind by the detailer who had just finished mopping the showroom floor. The water inside was gray, filmy, swirling with soap scum, dirt, and floor grime. The sharp, sour smell of industrial cleaner rose from the surface, thick in the September heat. Brenda looked at the bucket. Then she looked at Oliver. Her eyes moved between the two like she was making a decision. She made it. "You know what? You look like you need a bath." She grabbed the bucket with both hands, took one step forward, and swung it. The entire contents, a full gallon of dirty, chemical-soaked mop water, hit Oliver square in the chest. The impact was heavy, wet, loud. Gray water exploded across his hoodie. It soaked through the fabric to his skin in an instant. It splashed up across his chin and lips. It streamed down his jeans in dark, filthy streaks. It filled his sneakers. The stench of bleach, floor grime, and something sour wrapped around him like a fog. He didn't move, not 1 inch. For 3 full seconds, he just stood there, arms at his sides, water dripping from his fingertips onto the hot asphalt, eyes closed, breathing slow and steady. The parking lot went completely silent. The white couple by the truck stared with their mouths open. A salesman inside the showroom pressed his face against the glass, eyes wide. Janelle, standing by the water cooler, covered her mouth with both hands, her eyes filled with tears. Oliver opened his eyes. He looked down at his soaked clothes. Then he looked at Brenda. "Are you done?" he said. Quiet, steady, like a man asking about the weather. Brenda dropped the empty bucket. It clanged against the asphalt and rolled in a slow half circle, leaving a trail of dirty water behind it. She put both hands on her hips and grinned. "Yeah, I'm done. Now get off my lot." Oliver nodded, slowly. He reached into his wet hoodie pocket and pulled out his phone. Brenda flinched. "What are you doing? Put that away!" "I'm sending a message," he said. Calm, unbothered. He typed something short, 10 words, maybe fewer, then slid the phone back into his pocket. Brenda's eyes narrowed. Then she grabbed the two-way radio clipped to her belt. "Cal, I need you at the front entrance, right now. We've got a situation." 30 seconds later, Cal Morrison appeared, the dealership's security guard. White, mid-30s, thick arms, built like a man who lived at the gym. He looked at Oliver, soaking wet, clothes stained gray, and then at Brenda. Confusion crossed his face. "What happened here?" "This individual is trespassing," Brenda said, crisp and loud. "He's been loitering, refusing to leave, harassing customers. I want him escorted off the property immediately." Oliver looked at Cal. "I'm not trespassing. I came here to look at cars. That's it." Cal hesitated. He could see the dirty water dripping from Oliver's sleeves. He could smell the bleach rising from his clothes. Something about this felt wrong. But Brenda was his boss, and she was staring at him with that look, the one that said, "Do what I say, now." "Sir," Cal said. His voice was stiff, uncomfortable. "I'm going to need you to leave the premises." Oliver didn't argue. He raised both hands slightly, palms open, fingers spread. A gesture that said, "I am not a threat." A gesture no man should ever have to make just to look at cars on a Saturday morning. "All right," Oliver said. "I'll go." He turned and walked toward his rental SUV. Slowly, steadily. Each step left a wet footprint on the scorching asphalt. His sneakers squelched with every stride. The smell of chemicals trailed behind him like a shadow. Behind him, Brenda's voice rang across the lot, loud, proud. "And don't come back. This is a respectable business. We have standards here." Then she spun around, flashed a warm, dazzling smile at the white couple by the trucks, and said sweetly, "I am so sorry about that disturbance, folks. Now, what can I show you today?" Oliver reached his SUV. He opened the door, sat down on the cloth seat, water soaking into the fabric, and pulled out his phone. He didn't start the engine. He made a call. Nobody in that parking lot, not Brenda, not Cal, not a single customer, had any idea who was on the other end of that call, or what was coming next. Oliver didn't leave. He drove across the street and parked in the shopping plaza on the other side of the road. From there, he had a clear view of Hargrove Family Motors. The glass showroom, the front lot, the rows of SUVs baking in the sun, and the electronic sign still flashing. "Best deals in Charlotte. Come see Brenda." He turned off the engine. Just the soft tick of the cooling engine and his own breathing. He looked down at himself. The hoodie was destroyed, soaked through, heavy, clinging to his chest. The gray water had dried in uneven streaks, some parts still damp, others stiffening into chalky white lines that smelled like bleach and old mop heads. His jeans were dark from the belt to the knees. His sneakers squelched every time he shifted his feet. The smell, that sharp, sour mix of industrial cleaner and dirty floor residue, filled the entire car and stung the inside of his nose. He didn't change, didn't wipe himself off. He just sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. Then he picked up his phone and dialed. 2 rings. "Marcus, it's Oliver." His voice was level, unhurried. Not the forced kind of calm people perform when they're trying not to explode. This was the voice of a man who had already made every decision and was now simply giving instructions. "I just came from one of our new acquisitions, Hargrove Family Motors, Charlotte, off Route 51. Silence on the other end. "The general manager is a woman named Brenda Hargrove. Pull everything on her, full personnel file, HR complaints, disciplinary history, employee turnover going back 3 years, every name, every exit, every reason." The faint sound of typing. "Next, call Tom Fielding at Atlantic Auto Holdings. His personal line, Marcus, not his assistant. Tell him I need the security footage from this location pulled and preserved. All cameras, front lot, entrance, every angle, last 2 hours. Nothing gets deleted, nothing gets taped over. Make sure he understands." Oliver glanced at the rearview mirror. The dealership sat behind him, small and bright. A salesman was walking a white couple toward a truck. The flags were still snapping. Everything looked normal. It wouldn't for much longer. Last thing, full civil rights compliance review, independent, third party, hiring records, terminations, internal complaints, complete audit on my desk by Wednesday. A pause. Thank you, Marcus. He hung up. His phone buzzed almost immediately. A text from Desiree. How's the dealership visit going? Everything okay? He typed back, interesting morning. Tell you tonight. Love you. He started the engine and pulled away. In the mirror, Hargrove Family Motors shrank behind a row of trees until it disappeared. He didn't look back. Back inside the dealership, Brenda Hargrove was riding high. She pushed through the glass doors and marched across the polished marble floor like a general returning from battle. Her heels cracked in a sharp, proud rhythm. Chin up, shoulders back, smile wide. Problem solved, she announced. Two salesmen looked up from their screens. You're welcome, she added with a wink. She poured herself a fresh coffee, cream, no sugar, and leaned against the counter. A young white salesman named Greg drifted over, curious but cautious. So, what was that outside? With the guy in the hoodie. Brenda waved her hand like she was swatting a gnat. Same thing every weekend, Greg. They wander in off the street, no money, no intention to buy, sit in the cars, touch the leather, take pictures for social media, and walk off without spending a cent. She set her coffee down. You've got to stop it before it starts. That's the difference between a manager and a salesman. A salesman waits. A manager acts. Greg shifted his weight. Right, it seemed kind of what? Brenda's voice sharpened just enough to close the door. Greg swallowed. Nothing. Smart boy. She picked her coffee back up and took a long sip. Her eyes swept across the showroom. Spotless floors, gleaming cars under warm spotlights, the soft hum of air conditioning. And she exhaled with satisfaction. Everything was perfect. Everything was under control. She was so wrong. At the back of the building, past the service corridor and the supply closet, Janelle Perry sat alone in the break room. The door was closed. The fluorescent light overhead buzzed and flickered, that low, droning hum that crawled into your skull and stayed there. The air smelled like burnt coffee, stale microwaved leftovers, and the faint chemical tang drifting in from the service bay. A motivational poster on the cinder block wall showed people high-fiving under the words, "Success is a team effort." The exclamation mark felt like a slap. Janelle's hands were flat on the table, shaking. Not from fear, from rage. The deep, airless, chest-crushing kind that sits on your ribs and makes every breath feel like work. She kept seeing it, the bucket in Brenda's hands, the arc of gray water catching sunlight before it slammed into Oliver's chest. That sound, the heavy, flat, wet smack of dirty water against a man's body. And then the silence. The long, suffocating silence when an entire parking lot full of grown adults watched, and nobody said a word. She texted her mother, "Mom, I can't do this anymore." She threw a bucket of dirty water on a black man today, right in front of everyone, then told me to go restock the water cooler. Her mother replied in under a minute, "Baby girl, please quit. Come home. That place is poison and that woman is evil." Janelle put the phone down and pressed both palms against her closed eyes until she saw white dots in the dark. The fluorescent light hummed above her. The poster grinned from the wall. This was not new. Brenda had been grinding Janelle down from day one, 2 months ago. Not with big attacks, with small, constant, deniable cruelties. Walk-in customers always went to the white salesman first. Janelle got scraps or nothing. When she connected with a buyer on her own, Brenda would appear, step between them, and take over. "This customer requested a senior associate," she'd say with a smile. A lie. Every time. Brenda commented on Janelle's hair weakly. "Is that your natural hair?" she asked once, in front of a customer, tilting her head like she was examining something under a microscope. She told Janelle her braids were a bit much and suggested something more toned down. And the cleaning. Janelle was assigned more cleaning duties than anyone, restocking supplies, scrubbing the restroom, sweeping the lot after closing. None of it was in her job description. All of it was a message about where Brenda believed she belonged. But Janelle was not the first. This is where the story turns darker. 18 months before Oliver walked onto that lot, a young Latino associate named Diego was hired. Smart, personable, great with people. He lasted 90 days. His resignation letter to corporate HR described a hostile, racially charged environment and named Brenda directly. She called him the help in front of customers. Once told him, with colleagues standing right there, to go back to detailing cars. That's where people like you fit in. Corporate opened a file, sent Brenda a one-page written warning. No investigation, no interviews, no follow-up. Case closed in 2 weeks. Before Diego, a black woman named Tamara in the finance department filed a complaint after Brenda said she didn't trust certain types of people with money. Tamara was transferred the next month. Brenda didn't miss a day. Before Tamara, 3 other employees of color quietly left over 2 years. No complaints, no exit interviews. They just vanished, the way people do when the system protects the person hurting them. Brenda's father had his own reputation. Old-timers in Charlotte's car business knew the Hargrove name, knew what it meant. Some legacies passed down right alongside the office keys. Now, one detail Brenda never thought about that morning. Something she'd walked past 10,000 times without a second glance. Hargrove Family Motors had 16 security cameras, high definition, always recording. Front lot, main entrance, showroom, service bay. Every frame time-stamped. Every angle preserved in sharp, courtroom-ready resolution. Everything that happened that morning was on those cameras. Every word, every step toward the bucket, every drop of water. The look on her face while she threw it. All of it. Recorded. Saved. And right now, while Brenda stood sipping coffee and bragging to Greg, every second of that footage was being downloaded and forwarded to Oliver Dawson's legal team. She had no idea. She was still smiling, still certain she had won. That certainty had about 12 hours left. That evening, the sun dropped behind the Charlotte skyline, and the sky turned a deep, bruised purple. The streetlights flickered on. The city settled into its Saturday night rhythm. At her house 10 miles from the dealership, Brenda Hargrove sat on her couch with a glass of white wine and her phone. The television played some renovation show she wasn't watching. She was scrolling through vacation rentals in Hilton Head, planning a weekend she felt she'd earned. It had been a good day. 2 units moved. That situation in the parking lot handled without breaking a sweat. She sipped her wine and smiled. Her phone rang at 8:48 p.m. The screen read, "Tom Fielding." Brenda's eyebrows lifted. Tom was the regional vice president of Atlantic Auto Holdings, the corporate group that owned her dealership. Her boss's boss. He never called on weekends. She answered with her brightest voice. "Tom, what a nice surprise." Silence. 3 full seconds of heavy, deliberate silence. She could hear him breathing, slow, measured, the way a person breathes when choosing every word carefully. Brenda. No warmth, no greeting, just her name, spoken like the first line of a verdict. "I received a call this afternoon, directly, from the CEO of Dawson Equity Group." Brenda knew the name. Dawson Equity was the private equity firm that owned Atlantic Auto Holdings, the top of the food chain. She had never spoken to anyone there. "Oh," she said lightly. "What about?" "His name is Oliver Dawson." Tom let the name hang in the air. "He visited your dealership this morning. Casual clothes, rental vehicle. He does this with new acquisitions. Walks in unannounced to see how staff operates." Brenda's fingers tightened around the wine glass. A tiny ripple crossed the surface. "He told me what happened. And then I watched the footage." Brenda's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "I watched you block a man from entering your showroom. I heard you comment on his skin. I watched you grab a bucket of dirty mop water and throw it on him. I watched it hit his chest and run down his face. And then I watched you laugh." Her hand trembled. She set the glass down quickly before it spilled. "Tom, that's not... You have to understand, I didn't know who... You didn't know who he was." Tom's voice didn't rise. It cut like a razor held perfectly still. "That's your defense? So if he'd been a regular person, no money, no power, that would have made it acceptable?" Brenda opened her mouth, closed it. Nothing. "Let me tell you who Oliver Dawson is." Each word landed like a hammer on stone. "He is the founder and CEO of Dawson Equity Group. His firm is the majority stakeholder of Atlantic Auto Holdings. Atlantic owns your dealership. The man you threw dirty water on this morning is the man who owns the company that pays your salary. In every way that matters, he is the man at the very top of the chain that keeps your lights on." The blood left Brenda's face. All of it. At once. Like someone pulled a plug at the base of her skull. Her lips went white. Her hands went cold. The phone nearly slipped from her fingers. "Tom, please. It was a misunderstanding. He didn't look like... I thought he was just..." "Just what, Brenda?" Tom's voice dropped to a whisper, quiet the way a blade is quiet. "Finish that sentence. I want to hear you say it." She couldn't. "Here's what happens next. Effective immediately. You are suspended. You are not to set foot on dealership property. You are not to contact any employee. Your credentials will be deactivated within the hour. Monday morning, a corporate HR team and an independent civil rights investigator will arrive. They will review the footage, interview your staff, and audit your entire tenure as general manager." Brenda's breath came in short gasps. "Tom, 20 years I've given. My father built that place. You can't." "Your father's name is on the building, Brenda, not on the deed. Not anymore." The line went dead. Brenda sat frozen, the phone dark in her trembling hand. The wine glass caught the television's flicker, a soft golden shimmer across untouched wine. The renovation show played on. A couple argued about tiles. The audience laughed. She heard none of it. She stared at the wall, mouth open, eyes glassy, a woman watching her life collapse in real time. 12 miles away, in a warm house in Myers Park, Oliver Dawson sat on the edge of his daughter's bed. Zoe was 6. Tucked under a lavender comforter with cartoon elephants, braids fanned across the pillow. Oliver held a picture book on his knee, a story about a brave fox who found her way home. He read the last page in a silly voice. Zoe giggled and touched his face. "Daddy, you smell funny." He laughed softly. "Long day, baby." "Did something bad happen?" He kissed her forehead. "Nothing that can't be fixed." He turned off the lamp. The room went soft and blue, just a star-shaped nightlight glowing near the door. Downstairs, Desiree leaned against the kitchen counter with tea. She looked at him the way only someone who has loved you for 15 years can. Want to tell me about it? A woman at the dealership threw a bucket of dirty water on me, called me disgusting, had security walk me out. Desiree set her tea down. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes went hard. And? It's being handled. Handled how? The right way. She held his gaze, then nodded, slow, steady, not satisfied, but trusting. Because when Oliver said something was being handled, it was already done. Monday morning, 8:15 a.m. The Charlotte sky was overcast, a flat gray ceiling pressing down on the city like a weight. No sun, no breeze. The flags outside Hargrove Family Motors hung limp and still. Brenda pulled into the lot early. She wasn't supposed to be there. Tom had been clear. But she had spent all Sunday convincing herself this was fixable, that if she could just look the right people in the eye and explain, everything would go back to normal. She was wrong. She walked toward the entrance in her sharpest outfit. Navy blazer, pressed slacks, full makeup. Armor for the fight she thought she was about to win. The glass doors didn't open. She tried her badge. The reader blinked red. Once, twice. Red again. Deactivated. The door opened from inside, but not by a sales associate. A woman in a charcoal suit stepped out. Mid-40s, short hair, reading glasses, leather folder under one arm. Behind her, a man in a dark suit with a briefcase. Behind him, Tom Fielding, arms crossed, face like stone. Brenda, I'm Patricia Cole, Senior HR Director for Atlantic Auto Holdings. This is Daniel Webb, Corporate Counsel. We need to speak with you. They walked her to a small conference room at the back, fluorescent lights humming, air smelling like dry erase markers and stale carpet. A laptop sat open on the table, screen facing Brenda's chair. She sat, hands folded, fingers twisting. This meeting is being recorded, Patricia said. Brenda nodded, throat dry. On Saturday morning, an incident occurred in the front lot involving a customer. Tell us, in your own words, what happened. This was her chance. She had rehearsed. A man was loitering near the entrance. He seemed out of place. I asked him to leave. He refused. I called security. That's all. Patricia reached across and pressed a key on the laptop. The footage played. High definition, full audio. Brenda blocking the entrance. The comment about his skin. The word disgusting. The bucket. The gray water arcing through the air. The heavy splash against Oliver's chest. And then her laugh. Loud. Proud. Ugly. Brenda watched herself. The color drained from her face for the second time in 3 days. That was... I can explain. There's nothing to explain, Tom said from the corner. Flat. Final. We've spoken with 3 staff members. Their statements are consistent, and they go well beyond Saturday. Patricia closed the laptop. Brenda Hargrove. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated. Grounds: gross misconduct and violation of the company's anti-discrimination policy. You will also be notified that Mr. Dawson's legal team is pursuing civil action against you personally for assault and racial discrimination. Brenda's mouth moved. No sound. Her eyes were wet. Her hands were shaking. They gave her 15 minutes to collect personal items under supervision. She carried a single cardboard box through the showroom. Every employee watched her pass. Nobody spoke. Nobody said goodbye. The glass doors closed behind her. The lock clicked. 30 minutes later, Janelle Perry was called to the same room. She walked in, expecting the worst. A write-up. maybe a termination for stepping outside during Saturday's incident. Instead, Tom Fielding stood up when she entered. He pulled out a chair for her and said something she had never heard from anyone at that dealership. "I'm sorry." No corporate language, no hedging. 2 words, and he meant them. "What happened to you here was unacceptable. We failed you. I failed you. And I want to hear everything, not just Saturday. All of it." Janelle looked at him for a long moment. Then she talked. About the walk-in customers she was never assigned. About her braids being called distracting. About the cleaning duties that weren't in her job description. About watching a woman throw dirty water on a man and being told to go restock the cooler. 22 minutes. No interruptions. When she finished, her cheeks were wet, but her voice was steady. Tom offered her a promotion. Assistant sales manager, effective immediately. A raise. A full review of the dealership's culture, top to bottom. Janelle nodded. She didn't smile. Not yet. But something behind her eyes shifted. Something clenched tight for 2 months finally began to loosen. That afternoon, Cal Morrison sat in the same chair and gave his statement. He confirmed Brenda had ordered him to remove Oliver, based on nothing but appearance. He described her language, her tone, her pattern. "I should have said something," Cal said, staring at the table. "I knew it was wrong. I just didn't." He wasn't fired, but everyone in that room understood. Silence has a cost, too. The footage leaked on a Tuesday. Nobody knows exactly who did it. Corporate said it wasn't them. The HR team denied it. The police later traced the upload to a personal phone that had screen-recorded the security footage during an internal review. But by then, it didn't matter. The video was already everywhere. It hit the internet like a match on gasoline. The clip was 94 seconds long. It showed Brenda blocking the entrance. It captured every word, sharp, clear, undeniable. You could hear her say, "Disgusting." You could hear the comment about his skin. And then you could see her grab the bucket, take 1 step forward, and throw. The gray water exploding across Oliver's chest, the splash hitting his face. And then, the part that made people lose their minds, you could see her smile. That wide, satisfied, unashamed grin as she dropped the empty bucket and put her hands on her hips. Within 12 hours, the video had 6 million views. Within 48, it had crossed 30 million across every platform. The comment sections were on fire. Twitter was a war zone. TikTok creators stitched the clip with reaction videos, some crying, some screaming, some sitting in stunned silence. The hashtag Brenda Hargrove trended nationwide for 3 straight days. A local Charlotte news station was the first to run the story. Their headline, "Dealership Manager Splashes Dirty Water on Customer." Turns out, he owns the company. The anchor could barely keep a straight face reading it. Then the national outlets picked it up. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, The Today Show, The View. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a hot take. But the footage spoke for itself. 94 seconds of undeniable, high-definition cruelty. And then the former employees started coming forward. Diego was first, the young Latino associate who had quit 18 months earlier. He appeared on a Charlotte morning show, sitting in a pressed shirt with his hands steady on the desk, and described in detail what it was like to work under Brenda Hargrove. The things she called him, the way she spoke to customers of color. The complaint he filed, that went nowhere. His interview got 4 million views in a single day. After Diego, others followed. Tamara, the black finance associate who had been transferred, released a written statement through her attorney. 2 former detailers, both Latino, spoke to a reporter from the Charlotte Observer about being told to stay in the back when certain customers were on the lot. A pattern emerged. Clear, documented, undeniable. This wasn't one bad day. This was years of behavior, protected by silence and institutional neglect. On Wednesday, 3 days after the termination, Dawson Equity Group released an official statement. It was measured, precise, and devastating. The firm confirmed that its CEO, Oliver Dawson, had personally experienced discriminatory treatment at one of its portfolio dealerships. It announced a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination across all holdings. It committed to an independent civil rights audit of every dealership in the Atlantic Auto Holdings network. And it established a $2 million fund for employee diversity training and support services across the entire portfolio. Oliver did not appear on camera. He did not give interviews. He did not post on social media. The statement spoke for itself. And somehow, his silence made it louder. The legal machinery moved fast. Oliver's legal team filed a civil lawsuit against Brenda Hargrove, personally. The charges were assault and battery. Under North Carolina law, throwing any substance on someone constitutes assault, and racial discrimination. The lawsuit sought compensatory and punitive damages. It also requested a court-ordered public apology. Separately, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, opened a formal investigation into Hargrove Family Motors. They subpoenaed employee records, hiring data, termination files, and internal communications going back 5 years. The scope of the investigation expanded quickly as more former employees came forward with complaints that had never been properly addressed. Brenda hired an attorney. She gave one interview to a local radio station, claiming she had been taken out of context and that the video didn't show the full picture. The internet responded with a single, devastating question that trended for a full day. What context makes throwing dirty water on someone okay? She didn't do another interview after that. The civil trial took place 4 months later in a Mecklenburg County courtroom. It lasted 3 days. The footage was played for the jury on a large screen, twice. The courtroom was silent both times. The only sound was the splash of water hitting Oliver's chest, coming through the speakers, thin and sharp and unmistakable. Oliver testified. He sat in the witness chair in a dark suit, hands resting calmly on his knees, and described what happened that Saturday morning in a quiet, steady voice. He didn't raise it once. He didn't need to. Jamel testified. She described 2 months of daily degradation. Her voice cracked once when she talked about being told to restock the water cooler while a man stood soaking in the parking lot. But she held it together. The jury watched her closely. 2 of them wiped their eyes. Diego testified via video link. Tamara submitted a written deposition. Cal Morrison took the stand and confirmed everything. Brenda's instructions, her language, her pattern. Brenda's attorney argued that her behavior, while regrettable, did not rise to the level of criminal assault. The jury disagreed. They found Brenda Hargrove liable on all counts. She was ordered to pay damages. And the judge issued one additional order that Brenda clearly had not prepared for: a public written apology to be read aloud on camera and entered into the court record. The video of that apology went viral too, but for very different reasons. Brenda stood at a podium in the courthouse lobby. Her hands gripped the edges of a single sheet of paper. Her face was pale. Her voice cracked on the second sentence. She read the words slowly, apologizing to Oliver Dawson, to Janelle Perry, to Diego, to Tamara, and to every employee she had mistreated during her tenure. She finished in under 2 minutes. She did not take questions. She walked to her car with her head down, got in, and drove away. The clip was viewed 11 million times in 72 hours. The ripple effects spread beyond Charlotte. 3 other dealership groups in the Carolinas announced internal diversity audits within a month, citing the Dawson case directly. The National Automobile Dealers Association issued a statement urging all member dealerships to review their workplace conduct policies. 2 corporate training companies launched new modules specifically referencing the Hargrove incident. Brenda Hargrove's name became something no one in the auto industry wanted attached to their business. A cautionary tale told in boardrooms and HR seminars. A case study in what happens when prejudice meets power and loses. So, where are they now? Let's start with Brenda. After the trial, Brenda Hargrove disappeared from the automotive industry entirely. No dealership in the Carolinas would touch her. Her name had become toxic, the kind of name that makes hiring managers close a resume before they finish the first line. She sold her house in the suburbs, moved to a smaller town 40 miles outside Charlotte, and took a job working the register at a home goods store in a strip mall off the highway. No more marble floors, no more leather chairs, no more electronic sign flashing her name for the whole city to see. Just a name tag, a cash register, and the quiet knowledge that every person who walked through the door might have seen the video. She never gave another public statement. She never apologized beyond what the court required. Whether she ever truly understood what she did, or only regretted getting caught, is something only she knows. Now, Janelle. Janelle Perry thrived. As assistant sales manager, she turned the culture of that dealership around from the inside. She mentored new hires. She built a team that actually looked like the community it served. Within 18 months, the Charlotte location's customer satisfaction scores were the highest in the Atlantic Auto Holdings network. 2 years later, Janelle left to start her own business, a small used car lot on the east side of Charlotte called Perry Auto. It wasn't big, it wasn't flashy, but every person who walked through the door, regardless of what they looked like, what they drove, or what they were wearing, was greeted with the same words: "Welcome. How can I help you today?" She kept a framed photo behind her desk. It wasn't a diploma or an award. It was a screenshot of the text she sent her mother that Saturday morning. "Mom, I can't do this anymore." Printed out and mounted in a simple black frame. A reminder of the day everything changed. And Oliver. Oliver Dawson went back to doing what he had always done, running his company quietly, effectively, and with purpose. He didn't write a book about what happened. He didn't launch a speaking tour. He didn't turn himself into a brand. But he did one thing. 6 months after the trial, he established the Dawson Equity Scholarship, an annual fund for young people of color pursuing careers in the automotive industry. Sales, finance, engineering, management, any path. The only requirement was a short essay answering one question: what does respect mean to you? The first class of recipients included 14 students from 7 states. One of them was a young woman from Charlotte whose mother worked at a tire shop. Her name was Monique. She wanted to run a dealership one day. Oliver read her essay 3 times. Then he called her personally to tell her she'd been selected. There's one more scene I want to leave you with. 8 months after that Saturday morning, Oliver Dawson walked into Hargrove Family Motors again. This time, he wore a suit. This time, everybody knew who he was. The showroom floor went quiet when he stepped through the glass doors. Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. Janelle was standing near the reception desk, adjusting a display. She looked up, saw him, and froze for just a moment. Then she walked over, steady, composed, shoulders back, and extended her hand. Oliver took it. They shook hands in the middle of the showroom, surrounded by gleaming cars and polished floors. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. The moment said everything. It was quiet. It was dignified. It was the ending this story deserved. What would you have done? If you were standing in that parking lot, not as Oliver, not as Brenda, but as one of those bystanders who saw everything and said nothing. Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear it. And if this story hit you somewhere real, if it made you feel something, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe because the next story is already coming, and trust me, it's even wilder than this one. Remember, dignity can't be washed away, not by dirty water, not by ignorance, not by hate. It stays. It always stays.
You know what scares me? Most people are only nice when they think it matters, when they think someone's watching, when they think the person in front of them has power. But the second they think you are nobody, different face, different voice, different treatment, like a switch. And that's not kindness, that's acting. You're not good person because you're nice to your boss. You're a good person if you're nice to a person who can do absolutely nothing for you, the person you never see again, the person nobody would blame you for ignoring. That's the test. And most people fail it without even realizing. So here's what I want you to think about tonight. How do you treat people when there's nothing in it for you, when nobody's recording, when there's no consequence for being cruel or no reward for being kind? That version of you, the one that shows up when the camera are off, that's real one. Everything else is just performance. Like, share and subscribe. Real stories, real justice, every week. And remember, respect isn't something you give people because of they earned it. It's something you give because you earned the right to call yourself decent human being.